As if there aren't already enough Nintendo Switch games that are out right now that I really want to play but sadly don't have time to play yet. Here are 10 of the upcoming Nintendo Switch games in spring and summer of 2021, and some beyond that I'm really looking forward to. Of course, this is my personal list, so if there's a game that you're excited for and you don't see here, please feel free to share it below. I'm really curious to know what game you are most excited for. But I do also have a video coming on my channel soon for the upcoming Cozy Switch games that I'm excited for this year. So you might also see the game that you're looking for in that video. These release dates are what I found at the time that I'm recording this, and some are still TBD, but if anything changes while you're watching and you might notice, please leave it in the comments below to help out others who are watching with you. Let's jump right in. Famicom Detective Club is coming out with 2 games on May 14th, probably the day that this video is coming out on the channel, so it could be out right now. It's a murder mystery series, The Missing Heir, which is about a wealthy Japanese family, and The Girl Who Stands Behind, which is about an eerie haunting in a Japanese high school. These are actually originally games from the Nintendo Famicom in Japan back in 1988, which is pretty cool. This seems like a darker version of Professor Layton and Ace Attorney types of games where you would go around looking for clues, interrogating suspects, and basically piecing stories together to solve the mysteries. I personally am a fan of the true crime and mystery genres, so I think this is something I will enjoy. Throw in a good puzzle or two and it's a recipe for a cozy gaming session that is hard for me to resist. I didn't read too much into the stories yet because I want to discover it on my own when I finally get to play it, but let me know if you end up grabbing this game on release weekend and what you think. Out of all of the games in this list, this is probably the one that I know the least about, so I'm very curious. Miitopia, coming out about a week from this video on May 21st, is an adorable game coming from the Switch's older sibling, the Nintendo 3DS. It's a game that lets you use your Miis for more than just a profile picture icon and lets you assign roles for them in the story. Star alongside your friends and family in this lighthearted adventure about a Dark Lord pretty much stealing all the characters' faces and putting them on his monsters. It sounds so bizarre, but it's pretty funny. So you're a clueless adventurer and it's up to you to help everyone retrieve their faces. They've added new features to the Switch version like putting on wigs and makeup. The demo is out on the eShop right now if you haven't checked it out yet. I've already seen some amazing character creations online, like a Final Fantasy VII one most recently. It just blows my mind how creative people are, but it's also so much fun seeing people you know in this game world. I think anyone can enjoy Miitopia just for that simple reason, and the game doesn't take itself too seriously either, which is a breath of fresh air. Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne is coming out on May 25, and it's a remaster of the classic Atlas title from the PS2 days. Another darker storyline about an ethereal apocalypse in Tokyo, which leaves the city in a demonic revolution. You're a high school student and you awaken as a demon, and the choices you make in-game will determine how the rest of the story unfolds. I'm really excited about this game coming to the Switch and the upcoming Shin Megami Tensei 5, which doesn't have an official release date yet, but for those who are unfamiliar, it's like a Japanese RPG dungeon crawler about demons and saving the world. I hope that this game's arrival on the Switch might mean that Persona games are coming over as well. These games are some of my all-time favorites, and I am that sucker who will keep buying it for every remake and remaster on every system. World's End Club is coming out on May 28th, and it is another mystery type of game, but this time wrapped in a cuter, more colorful character and game design. Play as a group of misfit students called the Go-Getters Club and unravel a plot of twists and turns as you make friends along the way. It's a survival adventure game that is focused on the narrative, kind of like a visual novel. If you've played the Zero Escape games on previous Nintendo systems, it is very similar to that since it is coming from the same creators, but Nintendo-fied. Super quirky games that kind of did it the best in the genre, in my opinion. I really enjoyed those games in the past, though they were definitely much more gruesome in story and graphics. There is a demo out on the eShop for this game as well if you haven't tried it out yet and you're not quite sure if this game is for you. From May, we skip through June and right over to July 6th with Ys 9 Monstrum Nox. Ys 9 is the latest title with the renowned adventurer Adol Christen. This game is an action RPG building from the gameplay and mechanics of the previous Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana. If you've played that game, which was also actually the beginning of my Ys adventure, you would be more familiar with what Ys 9 will be all about. I really enjoyed the character, story, and exploration, but most especially the battle system. Just being able to swap characters on the fly using their different specialties on the field as I hack and slash my way through all the monsters. It just hit different for me. In this game, Adol and his allies set off to fight the threats coming from another dimension to vanquish it all for good. If you're a fan of JRPG games, I really recommend trying this one out because I was pleasantly surprised from the previous title. Normally I would just go for my usual Final Fantasy, but I think that this is something that you'll enjoy as well. Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin is coming out on July 9th, and it's the second installment of this series, also beginning from the Nintendo 3DS. There were really a lot of good games on that system. This was actually the only Monster Hunter game I've played before Rise this year, and I remember it being so much fun. Instead of an open world adventure game like the traditional Monster Hunter you may know, it's more of a linear turn-based RPG. The character and world designs are a bit different as well. It's more vibrant and almost anime-like, if that makes sense, where to me, Rise is leaning more toward a realistic style. In Wings of Ruin, you play as the grandson of a legendary rider. You encounter a girl who once knew your grandfather, and you're both responsible for protecting an egg of an unhatched Rathalos. The story basically unfolds surrounding that, and I'm really eager to learn more. The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is coming out on July 27th. I don't know how this game announcement flew right under the radar for me, but I just randomly saw this game on an EB Games advertisement somewhat recently and I lost my mind. In a good way. I loved the Ace Attorney games on the Nintendo DS, and it just brought a lot of nostalgia for me. It's really exciting to see a brand new title made for the Switch. It's a puzzle narrative adventure with all the familiar elements of all Ace Attorney games, investigating, interrogating, and of course dramatically yelling "objection" in a courtroom. But this time it's set in the 19th century Victorian era in London and the Meiji era in Japan. With a colorful cast of characters and an intriguing storyline, this game is a must-play for old fans and newcomers alike. Rune Factory 5 is the next installment for the Rune Factory series. Finally, it was said that it could come out in the summer of 2021 in North America, but there hasn't been a set date yet. But I do hope that that's still true because it's very fitting for the season. Rune Factory 5 is not just another farming sim, it's also an RPG adventure. Like the previous games, you wake up without your memory. How does that keep happening? Anyway, in a small town where you're recruited into a band of peacekeeping rangers. Besides the usual farm life, you also have to battle monsters or even tame them to fight alongside you or help you out on your farm. Kind of like Pokemon, but make it farming. Of course, with any Rune Factory and Story of Seasons game, it isn't complete without bachelors and bachelorettes to romance and create a life with. This is a game to watch out for all my cozy gamer friends out there who love farming sims but want to add a little spice, a little challenge to the usual formula of the farming genre. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I mean, do I even need to explain what this game is about? I know many of you are looking forward to this game with me, along with Pokemon Legends, which was also announced at the same Nintendo Direct. So hyped. It is, of course, the Sinnoh remakes from the Nintendo DS games of the same name. These have been reimagined for the Switch, where we can revisit and re-explore the region and see all the familiar Pokemon that we love. They've mentioned that there will be additional content, so even if you've played through the original games or if you're playing for the first time, there's something to enjoy for everyone. I played Pokemon Pearl on my DS, though it feels like forever since then. I'm not sure if I'm going to go for Brilliant Diamond or Shining Pearl this time around. Let me know below which of the two you're choosing. I'm really curious to know. Last but not the least, the most highly anticipated game, at least for the ones who have played the previous game, it's the sequel to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Hopefully it will still come out this year, but I did just read the other day that it could be potentially delayed to 2022 if they can make it happen in time for the holidays this year, and maybe even a Zelda themed console. Imagine how cool that would be. A fully designed console though, not just like the Joy-Cons coming out in the summer, even though I love that too, but I think that will be a huge system seller along with the game for Nintendo. But as with any of these upcoming releases, delays are pretty understandable. Most especially during the times we're in, they can somewhat be inevitable. No doubt that these developers are doing their best to push their games out sooner than later for their fans, but everyone is going through a tough time right now in almost every single industry, you guys, so I know fans are really excited, but I hope we can also empathize when it comes to things that are out of people's control. I would rather wait a little bit longer for a complete game to enjoy instead of, causing a Nintendo version of Cyberpunk, sadly. But I just know when this game finally does come out, it will probably be the only game I'll play for a while. I can't wait to dive into another adventure in this beautiful world, but in the meantime, I am also excited to try Skyward Sword, so I'm just gonna throw that in as a quick little number 11 on this list, I guess. It's coming out in July. I didn't get to play it on the Wii, but there are a lot of excited fans that are kind of hyping this game up for me and are making me want to try it. So out of the whole list, I'm probably looking forward to the Pokemon Sinnoh remakes and Rune Factory 5 the most. While I love trying and discovering new games, and I try to share some with you on this channel as well, I do find that I tend to go back to the more familiar titles. Since I play games to relax and wind and that whole thing, I just find comfort in games that I already know and have played through the years. Even if it might not necessarily be a relaxing game at first glance, I've played some of these series since the beginning of my gaming days. So I don't know if it's nostalgia, but it just brings all the warm and fuzzy feels for me. Which of these games are you most excited for? Are there any on your list that I may have missed? Let me know down below. I love reading through all your comments always. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.